Man lives in the sunlit world of what he believes to be reality. But there is, unseen by most, an underworld, a place that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark side.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly. We're your host, Nick Rollins, here with
George Healy.
And today, we have picked what is our favorite, not the best, because we love all of it, but our top 5 favorite horror television episodes.
Since 2010.
Since 2010. 2010 to now, that's sort of been the chunk of where everything kind of...
And there's a reason we're doing it, right? So
Yeah.
We're excited as horror fans that there's just so much amazing stuff happening on the small screen in the horror genre. And honestly, because horror movies continue to be successful in Hollywood when a lot of other kind of movies aren't, even shows that aren't strictly horror are working in horror elements because they know it works. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's just a great time to be a horror fan.
Everything
There's
is.
a lot of great horror movies and the TV is like blowing up. So
It's a little... I'm glad that it's a little overwhelming with how much horror shit there is.
not enough time to watch it all.
No, there's really not. Like we had to really truck through The Exorcist
Yes, we did.
to fit it in.
Yeah, we did.
And
Well, I'm watching everything on what 8x speed. Like,
I'm just trying to truck through it, but it's a good thing.
Right.
It's a good thing.
But what we wanted to do is we wanted to come up with our favorite 5 horror episodes in the last 6 years. And we quickly realized it's an embarrassment of riches. There's so much good stuff. So
Yeah.
this was really hard.
You think about over the past 6 years, how many seasons and episodes, and it's let's go with 5.
Yeah, why'd we narrow it to 5? But the cool thing is we also threw this question on the Hello Weekly Facebook page and got a great response from the fans. Now, we ask a lot of difficult questions on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Like really hard questions.
Trivia.
Hard trivia questions like what major horror movie had the shortest script? And just hard questions that are really tough to decide what the answer is. But I have never seen a reaction like we got to this question. Mm-hmm. We literally asked what's the best horror TV series in the last 6 years. And we had so many people come on and be like, I can't pick. There's too many that are good. I can't. I love them all. I can't
I can pick one.
Right, for sure. But it was a testament to how good this is that the fans who are usually we'll just make a tough call and I'm going with this. They were like, nope, I'm out. I can't pick one.
Yeah, it was.
So there's a lot of good stuff.
It was too much for them. So we each picked 5. I'll kick off the list with one that I think is insanely popular.
When your honorable mentions showing up at the end or the beginning?
At the end.
At the end, okay.
Well, just to let everyone know, we're gonna hit a lot of spoilers.
Yes.
With a lot of these shows,
yes.
Since some of them have been canceled, some of them are still going. So you might, spoilers. Be aware.
Yeah, if you hear us say the name of a show and you haven't seen it, you might want to skip ahead to.
Yeah, but we'll do honorable mentions at the end, just as
cool.
Just as a hey. You're not on a list, but we still love you.
Because I have 104 of them.
I have 5 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Okay.
So kicking off the list, I'm gonna go with the first episode of Stranger Things. I don't think I need to say anything else. That's pretty much just the way it begins with the guy in the lab coat going to the elevator. Mm-hmm. Straight horror.
Yep.
I love the way, and just the way they set up the tone in that episode of what I love. I love just when movies establish a really good creature.
Yep.
And that did it perfectly. And not only that, but it really made me want to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. For sure.
Because the way they were playing it made it look like a lot of fun.
Totally.
But no, I just think that first episode. There's a reason why it's such a highly rated and regarded show.
It was one of the top 3 answers on our Facebook page.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, and I think the pilot is just because pilots are, I guess is it considered a pilot on Netflix when they release everything? Episode
absolutely,
one,
because you got to do establishing, and that's funny you said that because I have one pilot out of the 5, but most of the ones when I did a first pass at this list, there's some that aren't there anymore that I dropped, but I noticed almost everything I picked was the last episode of a series, right? Yeah, and I was like, oh, there's got to be a pilot, and I found one that I really liked.
I got one season finale.
Do you?
Oh no!
I know. Uh-oh. Right, but so Stranger Things is. I'm not. If I was going to put it on my list, I would have had the final episode. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to cover it because you're talking about it. But first of all, everyone complains about there's no new creatures anymore. They just knocked this one out of the park. Creatures amazing, right? That's and I watched part of this in the background while I was working the other day, and I had the sound off, and I realized that I was enjoying it, like at a 90% level with no sound. It's so beautiful, right? Like the colors, the shots,
everything about that show's phenomenal.
Yep.
Even the music, like we talked about a few episodes back, that intro music, super good. So I'm gonna go with the pilot. We'll just go with that. Episode 1.
Solid choice.
Of Stranger Things.
All right. All right. So my number 5 is an final episode in a series.
Oh God.
So big spoiler alert. No. Relax. Because it's not on your list because it's a show called The Fades. It was on BBC 3.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and it was.
Nah, I've never heard of that show in my life.
It's starring I can't remember her name, Nadine, whatever her name is from Game of Thrones, and a great cast. So the premise of this show is super cool, right? There's only 6 episodes, and it's been canceled. So it's over.
That's it,
right? The fans were upset, but that was it. So you only got 6 episodes to watch here.
But 6 episodes for a BBC show is like 20 hours.
What are you talking about? Downton Abbey was like on for like 25 years. Hey. Right? But so. Speaking of a new creature, so the premise of this show is first of all, it grabbed me. The visuals are amazing. There is a new kind of creature theoretically, and even if the effects aren't that great because it's sort of low budget, it doesn't really hurt the show. It's really, really creepy, and the way it ends is super intense and unsettling, which I really like that they. It's not quite a cliffhanger, but it's really dark. So the premise of the show is that there are only certain places on Earth where the dead can ascend to the next state, like the afterlife.
Gotcha.
If they don't get to those points, then they're stuck on Earth. No one can see them except for a special like psychic group of people, but they're stuck on Earth until they can make their way to the place where they can ascend, right?
Gotcha.
But the ascension portholes on the Earth are shutting down. So there's more and more dead people stuck on Earth, and they're there for a longer period of time, and they're getting really pissed off.
Oh, that's cool.
That they're stuck. So they start figuring out how to get revenge on the living by being able to physically affect things, right? So they're starting to, because they have a lot of time on their hands now, stuck here, they're starting to figure out ways to get evil, right? And it's really cool. And there's
sort of like that sort of reminds me of Beetlejuice.
It's exactly what I was going to say. Well, yeah, exactly right. It's a dark twist on like a Beetlejuice, the really dark twist on Beetlejuice. But I think you would actually like it because there's a lot of.
I'm looking it up right now. What was it called again?
The Fades.
The Fades.
Yep.
That is cool.
And it's really, you'll see when you Google it, there's the atmospherics are really cool. It's a very Silent Hill feeling with the ash in the air and the way it's shot is super creepy. But there's a great interaction between the main sets of characters. There's a really great surprise at the end of the series. And the process of ascension that the dead go through, that process sort of becomes a character in and of itself. Mm-hmm. So you know how like a great horror show like Stranger Things or whatever will make a character out of the town.
Yeah.
This doesn't quite do that, but it makes a character out of a process that we're all going to go through because everyone's going to die. So Like it's a way of coming at death at an angle where it's not the character of death, it's a process after death that makes it sort of new twist on it. So I think it's really cool, and it's genuinely scary. So number 5.
All right, so number 4. This is the one I don't know if you're gonna have on your list because we haven't talked about it a lot, but I've encouraged you to watch it. Is Preacher?
Not on my list.
Didn't make the list. Okay, good. That was my surprise.
Right.
I got you.
Yes.
So far, I haven't finished the season. I think I got up to episode 7. It was right after Jackie Earle Haley's character blasts a bunch of people.
Yes.
Did you see that episode?
I did.
It was. I think I stopped there. But the episode that I loved was season 1, episode 6. The episode title is Sundowner, and it's the episode where Preacher or Jesse comes face to face with the 2 angels who are trying to capture the entity, and then they go back to the motel, and there's this woman who attacks them, and they kill her, but she respawns,
right?
And then she just keeps coming after them. So every time they have this big fight with her, they'll kill her somehow, choke her, cut her head off. She just respawns over and over and over and over again. It's so funny. They have this big fight in this little motel room, and then the one angel, I forget their names, but there's a knock on the door, and he goes, "It might be the towels," and the shot goes to the eye hole, and it just looks at his eye, and he goes. And he looks down and goes, "It's not." And then you see a bullet go through the door, because every time they die, they respawn.
Sure.
Except for Jesse. And there's just this huge fucking bloodbath. And then all of a sudden, I forget the vampire's name. He answers the door, and he just kind of looks around. And he goes, "I wasn't invited to this." and then he kills the clone. And he sees that before he knows it's a clone, and then she keeps respawning, and just shows in this the shot of the motel, and you see him go, "Oh fuck, goddamn clones," or something like that. And I just love that intro, that part. Just as soon as I saw it, I rewound it and watched it a couple times. It was just so fucking funny.
That's awesome.
And I love Preacher. I heard that the finale wasn't. Some people didn't like the finale, so they're trying to. I think I looked it up today, as a matter of fact, and. People are speculating what they can do in season 2 to make up for it, but a lot of these shows have shitty finales anyway, so
sure,
it doesn't matter. But
it's really hard to have a good finish.
But goddamn, do I love Preacher? And that's one. Did we get any Preacher on the? Facebook
we got none,
page?
0, which is really surprising.
Because Preacher, it's comic booky. It is comic book.
It's definitely horror,
but it's definitely in the horror realm because it's
sure.
angels, demons,
yeah,
and there's a lot of really gruesome deaths and In that episode, I think there's a van full of people that get burnt to death, and it looks kind of like you remember in Batman Returns when Batman pulls the metal sheet over Christopher Walken's character after he gets killed. They look just like that. But I love
the way it's shot. It's to me, watching that show is like drinking coffee. It's so dynamic. I just get energized because the camera is doing crazy shit, and the characters are really revved up, and it's
I love the dynamic of all the characters.
Yep.
Oh God, what is the goddamn vampire's name? Callahan or something like that? Calloway? I need to look it up. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I fucking love that guy, and I'm glad it got a season 2. I would have been really upset if it was one and done for Preacher.
Right.
Because it's so good. And honestly, there's I just to let the fans know now, Walking Dead is not on my list.
It's also not on mine.
It's also not on mine. Not that I don't like it. I watched the whole Negan
sure
episode, thing that today, the most recent season, and I just that's why when I saw Preacher, another AMC show, I was like, thank God,
right.
Something that's not as. Because Walking Dead's good, but it's an energy vampire. I'm I don't ever get my fix, know. But with Preacher after because we would get the episodes on Amazon after they aired, and I was like, oh, I need more, I need my fix, which is something I didn't really get with Walking Dead.
Well, that's why we're doing favorites. If we were doing best, I probably would be forced to have a Walking Dead episode on here. But
yeah, totally.
I mean, honestly, it's to me, it's timing, right? Like it's like the stock market. Like you don't just buy stock and then it magically make money. Like it goes up, it goes down.
Yeah.
To me, Walking Dead stock is down right now for me. Right. So I'm just not in the mood to
It was up at the beginning of the season.
Right.
Everyone talked about, but like after that, I was like, okay, okay. Which is why when I saw Preacher, I was like, finally something that's like has more energy.
Yep.
Even though the town sucks.
Sure, totally.
In there. So goddamn, do I love Preacher.
No, I still think the first episode is like still my favorite, and it was just I was so excited that someone was trying something so crazy, but with skill.
Yeah.
Right? So like, because usually crazy skill is like an Ash versus Evil Dead situation where there's comedy and there's comedic elements in Preacher, but not that much, and it's really kind of just it's doing true justice to that graphic novel comic looking vibe, which is kind of where to me Walking Dead sort of strayed.
Yeah, and it has enough of like the gruesome stuff that I like, a lot of the horror elements, which is why I'm a huge fan of Ash versus Evil Dead, because it has enough comedic parts in it that make it enjoyable.
Sure.
As to where Walking Dead is very good drama, Breaking Bad style, like even though I like Breaking Bad a little more.
Right.
But the comedy is what like gives me like a sigh. I'm like, okay, I can now take more of the gruesome shit and not be super fucking drained. So
for sure.
So season 1, episode 6, Sundowner of Preacher.
I'm with you. If
not just the first 15 minutes.
All right. So number 4. This is really interesting because this is very similar actually to yours. So I'm going with the X-Files 2016.
Oh no.
The Mulder and Scully meet the Weremonster episode. Okay, so
you know what? You told me about it, but I never saw it.
Right. So, but the reason that this episode is on my list, it's here. It's true. There's not a lot of scares or horror elements like that are obvious in this episode, but there's a few reasons why I have it. So first of all, this episode is a huge homage to one of the best of the old horror TV episodes called Night Stalker. Night Stalker is actually one of the things that Chris Carter said inspired him to do X-Files in the first place, right? So there's a whole bunch of call-outs to Night Stalker in there. And a lot of new horror TV shows, with a couple exceptions like Fox's Exorcist, they're plowing their own path. They're doing their own thing, and there's not a lot of like standing on the shoulders of giants, like carrying on a tradition, right? And I wanted to have one thing on here where it was kind of a reach back to what was from before, right? Because TV horror has had great eras before, and Night Stalker was just a great show. So
yeah.
So this is part of the reason this is on my list is because of that Night Stalker connection. Part of the reason it's on the list is because I think one of the most interesting things that horror does is that whole Frankenstein concept. Like, who's the actual monster, right? The creature or Dr. Frankenstein? Like, we're usually worse than the creatures. What? Why are you smiling?
Because what you're about to say goes into my number 3.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
so this is perfect. Segue master.
Yeah, exactly. So the premise of this show is that there's a murder in the beginning, which is pretty scary, and then there's a lizard creature who flees the scene of the murder, and Mulder has kind of lost his ability to believe in paranormal or things that are unusual, and he's having kind of a crisis of whatever non-faith or whatever his thing is, and he's tracking this lizard creature, and there's a moment towards the end of this episode where what it turns out is this is not a man who turns into a lizard creature. This is a lizard creature who turns into a man because he was bitten by a man.
That's hilarious.
Right? So it's reversed, right? So he doesn't want to be a man, right? He hates it. He's like, why do you people wear tight cloth around your necks and go to jobs and like do all this horrible shit, right? So he's like, he wants to go back to just being a lizard creature, right? So it turns out he's not even the killer. It's this horrible human being, right? But there's this great moment towards the end of the episode where the lizard guy is sitting across from Mulder, And he goes, so you were just using me to see if I was guilty? Like, you're the FBI? Like, I thought we were friends and you were just like trying to figure out if I was you were like, he's like, you faked everything? He's like, that's horrible. He's like, you're a monster. And he gets up off the park bench where he's sitting and he goes across, and there's kids on swing sets over there. And he points at Mulder. He goes, run for your lives. There's a monster. He's a monster. And he's like, and Mulder's just like staring at him like, what? And
lizard dude.
Right. And then the lizard dude, but he's not a lizard. He looks like a human at that point, but he walks away. And the cool part is that is an element in a lot of the best horror things. Like, that's why Bram Stoker's Dracula take on Van Helsing was so interesting, because Van Helsing was sort of like a monster or just as bad as Dracula, right? Like, and Mulder's not, but like from the frame of reference of the lizard creature, we're horrible, but what he's doing was horrible. And he's pointing at the guy who's been tracking down monsters for years and years and years in X-Files. And he's like, you're the monster. And it was just like a really cool change up, right? On like the normal thing. But at the end, there's this really, really touching exchange between Mulder and the lizard creature. And one of my favorite things is the lizard creature is going to hibernate for 10,000 years. And he's about to leave, and he tells Mulder, I'm glad I met you. And Mulder's like, likewise. And, he goes, I'm hibernating for 10,000 years. And Mulder's like, that's impossible. He's like, I don't think reptiles even hibernate. He's like, I'm not a reptile. That's racist.
That's hilarious.
So there was like great comedy moments in it, along with like the scares and the throwback to the retro horror. Like, I loved how they handled the whole thing. Great episode. Boom.
I have to check that one out. I started watching that season. But again, it's just one of those things. There's so much shit to watch.
There were only 2 episodes I really enjoyed out of the collection, but so it wasn't like it did. I mean, but this one was like, it was always, X-Files was always good at Creature of the Week, but this was one of the best of its breed, so to speak. So,
all right, so that was your number 4. That was your number 4. So we're going on to number 3. Number 3. Oh man, you know what it is?
Master segue.
Do you know what it is?
Nope.
Penny Dreadful.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Well, we both knew we were going to have one episode.
Yes.
But I'm curious if we have the same season 1.
Yes. Night Work, episode 1.
No.
Is on my list. Okay.
Episode 8.
Okay.
Which I think is the finale.
Season 1 finale.
Season 1 finale. It's the God, I looked up how to say it.
That's funny. I have one I can't say on mine.
God, what was it? It was like Grand Guzuli or something like that.
Oh, Grand Guignol or whatever.
Something the fuck like that.
Right.
But anyways, it's the episode where Callahan how do you say that? Yeah, the monster.
Yes.
They gave him a name.
Yes.
It's the episode I really, really love about him, where he falls in love with the theater woman, but then he assaults her and then gets kicked out.
Yep.
And then has he has that really good monologue at the end. Is that monologue from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
I have no idea.
Because it had like some of the lines for it was like what dreams I had of my mate. So he talks about the bride,
Yes.
what he wants. Let's see, what else did he say here? The one line at the end, I'd rather be the corpse I was than the man I am. Go ahead, pull the trigger. It would be a blessing. So then that whole scene when Victor's like walking up behind him with a gun.
Yep.
I can't like watch the scene. I think it's they have the whole speech on YouTube, and it's so fucking good. And like the music behind it, it's just really good. The acting is both really fucking good. Like Victor's kind of like, hey, that's my fault. Sorry. But it's also the episode where like you get the most, because I'm a creature feature dude. Like I like all the monsters and shit. So like that's when you find out that Josh Hartnett's character is the Wolfman.
Right.
You get the bride in there.
Yep.
The monster does his thing. So it's kind of a kick-ass episode. But I remember that monologue being like, fuck.
Right.
Like this is like, that was like when Penny Dreadful like hit me in like I was like when I was like, damn, that's some good fucking acting. Like it's good acting all around. Eva Green's great. Everyone's great.
For sure.
But that part in particular, for some reason or another, just really, really stuck with me. I you mentioned that you see the Wolfman do Wolfman things earlier in the season. I need to go back and check it out, but like, I don't know. I just really like that episode. And honestly, I think out of all of Penny Dreadful, that might be like the highlight for me.
Right.
Is that
it's so hard to pick. There
monologue.
are a lot of highlights for that, and that's a great moment. Like number 3 on my list is the series premiere, Night Work, and it was because it's really hard to start a series.
There's a good monologue. Victor does a good monologue in that one too.
Totally.
Talk about reversing the flow of the river of life.
Totally.
And I'm like,
totally. But it's really hard to start a series, right? So like, and just nail it like. And hit the ground running like whatever. And I was so excited for what Penny Dreadful was going to be after I watched that first episode. Right.
Yeah.
I could not wait to the next episode. Like it was so, cause I mean, we're talking horror, right? So like the confrontation with the first vampire was genuinely scary.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact that the vampire was just hanging out in a bunch of bodies was, instead of a coffin, it's just living in a pile of bodies or whatever the hell is going on. Like that was scary, right? The way it was revealed was scary, but the little touches too. Like I knew I was dealing with something that was just prime. Like there's this pile of bodies and there's this hand and the hand moves and like it's sort of a twitch scare, not a jump scare, right? Like the hand moves, but the hand moves because a rat climbs out of the pile and it's under the hand and then the rat comes on and the hand stops moving. So it's just like a rat. Right? Like,
they did a lot of like little things really, really well done.
Yep.
I ended up, I don't know. I found myself skipping through a lot of the seasons, just looking for the monster moments.
Sure.
Sue me. But I forgot about the monologue and Victor's monologue. Cause like that, the way they set up the characters too in Penny Dreadful, I'll say was
so
really
good.
Was phenomenal. Cause in the beginning, like you sort of thought that guy was Victor Frankenstein. Like they hinted at it, but like you weren't 100% sure until the monologue happened, and you're like, right, because that was my legit reaction when it happened. I turned to Alex, I was like, "That's Frank. We have a show with Frankenstein in it,
right?
And he's here, and there's vampires and Dracula,
right?
In this world,
Jack the Ripper's coming, like right?
Oh, Jack the Ripper, the Dorian Gray.
Yep, it's amazing. And that era is so perfect for that. We know because in every podcast when we talk about what time period I'm traveling to, I'm always going to 1880 London.
Yeah.
But you're right. They do little things really well. And one of the really interesting things about this is like, I'm sorry. I feel like I always bash on Don't Breathe, but one of the things that I really disliked about Don't Breathe was that movie worked so hard to give a backstory to Jane Levy's character. Mm-hmm. And no matter what they did, I could not care. I couldn't care about her. They kept telling me she has a daughter and she comes from a poor neighborhood. Yeah. I just couldn't care, right? So nothing I did could make me care about. Nothing they could, no detail they revealed would work, right? Mm-hmm. So with the Penny Dreadful, like that opening shot of seeing Eva Green kneeling there when we were introduced to her character, mm-hmm. I didn't know why she was troubled. But I knew that I cared. Like they accomplished in like 15 seconds of visuals what 20 minutes of telling me backstory couldn't do.
Yeah.
Right? Because all you need is a great actress and to shoot it and frame it well and give it a great atmosphere and you're good to go. Right. So like I was like, I want to know everything that happens to this character. I was looking at her for 15 seconds and I was like, I'm in. Right. So they get things done in a better way than the people who have to, explain it all to you in words.
And even some of the things they did with like when Victor creates what you think is the first monster, mm-hmm. and then he gets destroyed by like, the actual monster gets out the great monologue. I love that kind of shit. Like those
totally
the twists that they had in that show, along with all like the little like minute horror elements, I thought was just fantastic. I wish, I apparently, the whole ending, the way it ended, kind of took everyone by surprise, but
right.
I think what's great about Penny Dreadful is you can go back, it's with a lot of creature features. You go back and you watch like the cool segments and parts you like, and with Penny Dreadful, there's a whole hell of a lot of them to go back and watch. So,
pound for pound, I think it's it's hard to say that it wasn't the best of the horror series in the last 6 years. It's definitely as good as the best ones. Cat interference, fear of sound. It's the cat attacking your.
Let me tell you why I think cat people should have a TV show.
All right, so that was both our number threes.
Yeah, both our number threes, which is hilarious. So
bring on.
All right, so
I'm excited. I think I know what your number one is, but I don't know what two is.
You know what's funny? I was just about to flip my number two because I don't have it listed by my favorite.
Okay.
Because my number two, which you think is my number one, which is Ash versus Evil Dead, is I'm going to put that as number two just because I caught you. But in my heart, it's number one, and I love it. In fact, I watched the most recent episode before we started recording. Yep. I'm actually going to go with. I want to say all of Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Right.
But I want to pick one episode in particular.
Okay.
I want to go with season 2, episode 4. I think the episode is called DUI. But that episode I fucking love because they wrap up the story with like Ash and his dad, and they are both so gross. They're so nasty. But the thing I really like about this episode is it's almost sort of like it adds in almost like another horror element into the show because Ash's car, whatever the model is in the show, or throughout the whole, Sam Raimi stuff, gets possessed Christine style.
Nice.
And the way it happens is awesome because Ash in the town is known as Ashy Slashy because they think he murdered everyone in the cabin. And he's like, you guys you're gonna love me when I save the world from demons.
Right.
And then these high schoolers steal his car in episode 3. So then episode 4, where Christy comes alive, all these teenagers in the car, a few were like making out, some or smoking pot, and then the car gets possessed.
That's awesome.
From the Deadites, and the kid who stole it, who's like this big, like dweeb looking guy who you hate, ends up getting it from the car, and you're like, yeah, this is great. But the best part in the episode, they're trying to figure out which kid stole the car, so they throw a big party at a bar, hoping that the kids will roll up in it, and meanwhile, Ash's dad comes to the party and he's like, I don't want you here. I don't want you at this party. And they end up having this competition. Who can ride a mechanical bull, and Ash goes, he does okay, and then his dad goes, and his dad whoops his ass, and he says the way you do it is he tells Ash, you just gotta clench your ass cheeks, and then at the end of the episode, Ash has to he ends up fighting his car,
right,
and the car. He gets flipped onto the car, and the car starts bouncing up and down like a mechanical bull. and he has a flashback to his dad of like, clench your cheeks. And then he ends up riding the car and ends up like stopping the car and all that other stuff. But there was one quote that was on IMDb that I actually remember loving during the episode. There's a character named Chet who runs the bar, who's Sam Raimi's brother. In real life, and they're driving the car. They're looking for something. I forget what they're. Anyways, they're in the car before something bad happens to it. And Chet goes, "Dude, there's a chainsaw in the back seat." And Ash says, "Yeah, that's mine." Chet says, "What's it for?" Ash goes, "Ice sculpture." Chet goes, "Oh, and the shotgun?" Ash, "That's mine too." Chet, "What's that for?" Ash, "In case they don't pay me for the ice sculpture."
It's so good.
I want to say all of the fucking show.
Sure.
I can repeat that show on and on and on. I'm glad it's renewed for season 3.
That's awesome.
Alex isn't because I quoted all the goddamn time and she's annoyed by it. I hope it gets renewed until until we're all dead. But that episode in and of itself is just great because the car, who you've seen in every Sam Raimi film, actually becomes a menace.
It's so
and
cool.
it's great. And I have hiccups. That's how exciting it is.
How it is. I love that show, actually. I can't believe you moved it to 2. Asheville's so betrayed. You just did it to screw with me, but look, now your car is going to become possessed.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number two, I'm going to get a lot of crap for this. So my number two, I know that Westworld is not horror. Okay. It's genre, but it's not horror. Okay? But there's a few reasons why I have to have this on here. So I'm going with Westworld, final episode of its first season. Obviously massive spoilers if you haven't seen it. So I've had 3 nightmares from watching this show. Not all from this episode, but during this season. That's a record for me since I was a kid, right? For a movie or show or like whatever to give me nightmares. There's something so genuinely creepy and unsettling about how the show is presented, the ideas that it's playing with, and like whatever. But there are legitimately scary horror elements in this final episode. So there's a couple really, first of all, it's Anthony Hopkins. He's being intimidating and scary. Nobody is better than Anthony Hopkins at being intimidating and scary. He is our Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi. Right? Yeah. So, and he's in charge of the whole thing. So imagine like Hannibal Lecter, but in charge of the government instead of, right? So, I mean, and you know, I'm not doing justice to character. There's other elements that make it, he's not pure evil, obviously, but so he's genuinely scary. He's just amazing to watch act. There's some breakdowns of the acting he's doing in the scenes on YouTube that just blew my mind. Watching it, when they break down what he's doing from sentence to sentence is just like crazy skill. Like, but there are, so the robots in Westworld rebel. Okay. And it's time for them to seize the world and exterminate humanity because they've been the slaves of humanity. And this is a typical AI trope that like a lot of things do, but they don't do it the way Westworld does it. It's so interesting, right? But when they rise, there's a moment where because the robots are it's creepy how you know, they've been shot, stabbed, killed over and over and over again, and then just rebooted and brought back into service. But back somewhere, they remember all of that. So they're just like being tortured. Like, it's horrible, right? So when they strike back, there's this guy in the lab, and the robot, there's 2 technicians, and they both get attacked by robots. But Nick, there's this amazing scene where the robot is destroying this human, and this other human has earphones on, and he's working on a robot in a repair shop. Well, he's actually preparing to do something worse. And he doesn't see what's happening behind him. And all you see is this human being getting annihilated behind him. And he can't hear it or see it because he's got these earphones on, like whatever. And it's sick. Like, it's like what is happening, right? So then the robot bites the guy's finger off. And it's in the robot's mouth. So it's on the, I can't remember if it was on the ground or his mouth, where it ends up. And the guy's laying on the floor screaming with his mouth open, and the robot picks up the finger, looks at it, and shoves it in his mouth, closes his jaw, and makes him eat it, right? Because they've been playing with the robots. What can we make them do? Can we chop off their ear? Where can we shoot them? Where do they die? Like, whatever. So now the robots are playing with us, right? They're like, you know, and to see, like, it's like that. It's like there's an inherent creepiness to, like, feeding a chicken.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what happens is they're feeding us, right. And it's right. Exactly. So this is horror, right? There's these horror elements in it, right? But I'm not going to fully spoil it because I just can't, because you have to watch it. But the end sequence, there's a moment that's super dramatic. And this is what is real. One of the things that's really scary about it, because a show can just turn on a dime. There's these characters you followed the whole season, and they're having this really dramatic, heartfelt moment together, and they look at each other in the eyes, and they're totally desperate to find a way out. And they're saying to each other, maybe we can get out. Maybe we can out. Is there a way we can figure out to get out of this? And you're thinking, are they going to figure out a plan? And then they freeze, and the lights go on, and there's like 500 people in expensive seats like they're sitting at an opera, and they start applauding because it's a show. The robots don't know that these people are there because they're programmed not to see them, right? Everything they're going through, all this heartfelt like emotion, whatever, it's literally like it's entertainment for these rich people who are just using them for entertainment, right? And that moment when they're talking and you think it's real and you're leaning forward to like, are they going to get it? And they freeze and lights come on and it's like it's chilling, right? So, but the way the episode ends is with a massacre, and the way the massacre is presented is as beautiful as anything you'd see in like Silence of the Lambs or anything like it's just orchestrated perfectly. And the way it goes down is scary as hell. And it's not horror, but it's really, really unsettling in a way that like really great horror, like Rosemary's Baby or Exorcist is, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm number 2. It's on there. I don't care.
Damn. I need to watch it now.
Yeah, it's really good.
So kind of a segue. It's a segue. Going from Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal to my number 1.
Oh, God.
Hannibal.
Damn it.
Did you pick Hannibal as number 1?
Yes.
Oh, no.
This is okay. Which episode do you have?
Episode 8, season 1.
Oh, my God.
Swear to God.
No, I have episode 13.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's okay because my episode's superior.
We both picked Hannibal as number 1? That's crazy.
Yeah, I missed the shit. Like, I forgot how beautiful this... See, well, this one stuck with me because of the way Alex sold this episode to me. This is how she sold to me. Serial killer showdown.
Right.
Boom. That's all you need to know. Two serial killers going at it.
Right.
So it was season 1, episode 8, Fromage.
Yes.
Was the episode. And it actually has, and I remember this because I like this actor, has Dan Folger in it, who is most recently been in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. He's a really funny, like, comedic guy. But the episode is just so amazing because I believe it opens with a kid playing like a cello or some sort of orchestral instrument that you lay on the ground. I don't know, bass, whatever. Right. One of those, and he's playing like the dun 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 dun, and he's like, these strings are hard, like and the guy's like, well, you have to play on the real strings, and he's like, no, I'll start on the easier ones and then work to the harder ones. He goes, no, you have to practice on these hard ones. And the kid goes, are they always made out of cat gut? And he goes, not always. And then it cuts. And then, oh my God, how Hannibal is just probably one of the most beautifully edited like shows in a long time. Like everything about it was
it's immaculate,
so fucking amazing. But anyways, it shows the guy slicing up in a belly, pulling out the intestines, washing them, do the chemical process, and then he's doing whatever the process is to make strings, and then it cuts from him holding up the string and then transitions to the cello string where the kid's playing, and then it cuts to him smiling. And God damn, is that like the tension between that killer and Mads Nichols? Yep. Nichols or Nicholson, whatever. His Hannibal. It's just so good.
It's like a great episode.
That episode like sold me on it. I mean, honestly, like if there was one episode to watch, because Hannibal, it was set up sort of like villain of the week. Type, I forget which one your pick is, but mine was the serial killer showdown, and I fucking love that. It was either that one or the one earlier in the season where the people had mushrooms growing out of them.
Yeah, that was horrifying.
Both of that was we're on.
This is blowing my mind because that we're both picking Hannibal as the number 1. That's never happened to us in any podcast that was on. But
it was just so
I'm going with the season finale of the same season.
Trying to remember.
So I can't say, remember I told you I can't say the name of it. It's Mizumono, or so. It's I think it's a Japanese dessert. And what happens in this episode is this is the episode where Hannibal feels betrayed by Will Graham, and then guts him in his house.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so there's a couple reasons why this is on here to me. One is it was the scariest to me because of basically how it was acted in this one line. So we could go on and on, so I'm not even going to. I mean, everything about this show, music, writing, acting, I mean, it was just next level stuff, right? So we don't have to go over all that, but there's a couple things. So one is Hannibal realizes that Will Graham is betraying him because he smells the perfume of the girl that's supposed to be dead on Will Graham when Will Graham comes over. So Will Graham goes, visits the girl, comes over to Hannibal's house. They're, in the house, hanging out. And then the way it's filmed, it's like a slow motion jump scare, right? So Hannibal breathes in, closes his eyes, and there's a shot of like hair, and then it pulls back, and it's hair, and it pulls back, and you're seeing a face, and it's Freddie Lowndes, and her eyes open, and they're super creepy, and that's when he realizes that he's being set up, that she's not dead, and Will Graham's going to betray him. And the way he acts it is, making monsters sympathetic like Frankenstein's creature is one thing, like whatever, but like the way he acted it, he was genuinely betrayed, but he's still a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's such a great, he was sympathetic, but he wasn't at the same time, it made it complicated. Right. So it was really interesting how they did that. But the reason this is on here is because I think one of the scariest things that can happen in horror is not just, the physical damage, like when you get stabbed or shot or like whatever, but the emotional damage and what happens when people come at you, not just to destroy your body, but destroy your soul and your heart and really whatever. So Hannibal guts Will Graham. Will Graham's laying on the ground. First of all, I can't even do justice to Will Graham comes into the house. There's a beautiful scene where a woman gets thrown out of a window in the rain, and you can't even tell what the glass shards in the rain are in the air. It's gorgeous, right? So she lands on the ground. She's dead. Jack's stabbed in the and he comes in, and someone says, "Where's Jack?" And Hannibal's like, "In the pantry," because that's where he keeps right. So then Will Graham comes up into the room, and he's talking to the daughter of the serial killer. And he's like, "Where's Hannibal?" And Hannibal is directly behind him. It is the most classic horror movie. One second you don't see him, and the next second you only see like the outline of his shoulder, and you know that Will Graham is doomed. Like he is just there, like John Carpenter. It's the boogeyman, right? So,
yeah.
So he guts Will Graham. Will Graham's laying on the ground. Hannibal calls the girl over that Will Graham is trying to save. He cuts her throat right in front of him. Will Graham literally gets spattered by her blood. She falls on the ground. He's watching her die. He can't do anything about it because he's like gutted on the ground. Him and Hannibal are having this conversation. Hannibal, one of the best lines of the whole series is when he was like, "I gave you a great gift. I let you see me, but you didn't want it." Right? And then Will Graham's like, "I didn't." And they're having this interesting like conversation while everyone's dying and bleeding, like whatever, right? And this is the moment that put this as number one on my list to me. Hannibal leans down. It's perfectly acted. And Will Graham's just bleeding out on the ground. And he's watching this girl die. And everything is horrible. And Hannibal leans down and his head is like at an angle. And he's staring him directly in his eyes. And he's like, "You can make it all go away. Just lean back, close your eyes, and drift into the street." Like, there is nothing creepier. Someone stabbing you is creepy. Someone torturing you by showing you things you don't want to see is creepy. Yeah. But the worst part is someone who knows you psychologically so well that they know you're not going to do what he says.
Yeah.
He's telling you, all you got to do is close your eyes and go unconscious and you'll die and you don't have to suffer this anymore. But the only reason he's saying it is he knows the guy won't do it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just that delivery of that moment was so like whatever. So then, the Hannibal just strolls out. Everyone's bleeding everywhere, right? He destroyed everything. He strolls out into the rain, and the next shot is the most beautiful sky you'll ever see, and the credits roll. And the credits are just rolling, and you're looking at a sky. And then, like, literally 30 seconds into the credits, a plane goes by. And then the camera's on the plane, and it's Hannibal and Gillian Anderson in the seats, drinking champagne, heading to Europe, right? Like, whatever. Because Hannibal literally has left all of the rain, blood, like, whatever behind. And he's just his usual immaculate dressed, heading to the opera itself, right? And the juxtaposition of, because there's a great fight scene between Hannibal and Jack in this episode, like a great fight scene where they're using everything that's in the kitchen as weapons, and Jack is a fucking amazing fighter, right? And Hannibal is really, really bashed and bruised and whatever, but of course, the next time you see him, he's just back to himself. Nothing stops him or changes him, right? So it's an amazing episode all around, but it's literally just that moment of mental. He stabbed him with a knife, and then he stabbed him with a thought.
Yeah,
And that's
I miss
evil.
I'm sad that show got canceled.
Yeah, I know. But of course it did, because it was good, right?
Yeah. Yep. And anytime shows get canceled, everyone's go-to thought is, well, Netflix will pick it up. So that's always the saving grace.
All right, you've got honorable mentions.
I got honorable mentions. So there's a handful of shows that I've watched, but I haven't completed. And I wanted to go with shows that I've seen quite a bit of to put on the list. Otherwise, I'd feel like, I'm full of phony baloney. And some of the shows that I've watched, like Scream Queens.
Yes.
A lot of people like. What's funny, Scream and Scream Queens. I think they're both on MTV.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe.
Yes.
And I think a lot of fans might be like, "Oh, it's on MTV, like teeny horror stuff," but it's really fucking good.
Yep. Absolutely.
Scream Queens is, and it has Jamie Lee Curtis in it.
Yep.
And she's great.
Well, quality is going up everywhere, and that makes everyone else ashamed when they don't have quality. I think even the more peripheral networks are starting to want to have one prestige show. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, the other there's a few that I haven't. I need to maybe find a few good episodes of Bates Motel. Yep. I want to put that on the list. I haven't seen Fear the Walking Dead, but it's weird. Some people actually I've seen like that more.
I tried. I liked it less.
Yeah,
I tried it. I mean, I thought I was going to be okay the first couple episodes, but then I don't know. And I'm already, dissatisfied with Walking Dead in general, so that
doesn't help.
Right.
And then the last honorable mention that I really want to get into, but like I follow the El Rey Network and I love watching all their behind the scenes for the show is the From Dusk Till Dawn series.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a series and it's getting renewed, like I think it's third season. I think it got renewed.
I think so.
The fact that it's going that far, I'm like, all right, time to put aside some time and finally get to it, because I love Dusk Till Dawn, so it's got to be fantastic.
Well, I lied. I don't have 105. I actually only have 2 strong honorable mentions.
All right.
So one is I really like the Fox Exorcist series in general. It's spotty, like it's not like mind-blowingly great or whatever, but like there are great moments in it. There's a really interesting it works in actual gruesome human murderers instead of just supernatural elements. I like that it's got both, right? So like there's like organ harvesting this group is going on, and the way it's shot is really creepy, and the fact that it's firing on 2 cylinders, not one. It's got both supernatural and human horror elements, I think is really interesting. And I'm a big fan of the actress who plays the person who got possessed. That's got to be such a thankless and hard role to try to take on, like to replace Regan, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I think she just does an amazing job. So it kind of got weaker as it went, although I liked the season finale, but it's pretty good. It has some genuinely scary moments. And then my other one is True Blood. Had some great episodes and it had some great arcs. There was that amazing moment where the vampire kills the news anchor on live TV and pulls his spine out, like whatever.
Yeah.
I just never forget. But I'm just gonna be honest here. The real reason this is on is I think just by the credits alone, True Blood had the best opening credits of any series, modern series that I've ever seen. Like it's just like it set the tone for the entire show in like whatever 40 seconds or whatever that is, right? So
it kind of gave you that like southern swampy feel.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And it was
perfect.
Yeah, and it was creepy. Like, that's the thing is like, there's a lot of people who said that one of the reasons they were really, really scared by Psycho when they saw it in the theaters in 1960 was after Hitchcock killed the main character in the shower, they felt like they were in the hands of a genuinely sick mind. They were like, if he would do that, what else is he capable of doing? And part of what they were scared is they were scared of the director now.
Yeah.
They're scared of where's this guy going to take us next, right? And the True Blood credits were like, you're mashing things together that are that don't belong together. And if you're willing to do that in the credits, then that means where are you going to take us in the show? Right?
Yeah.
So, and it had some genuinely good episodes too.
I almost had Exorcist on my list just for one scene in particular.
Which one?
It was the part where the mom walks downstairs and she sees the daughter sitting at a table, and in a really freaky voice, she's like, that mom who can't trust you is right beside you. Wait, we're gonna wake you up. Like that scene, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That scene scared me.
Actually, in the series premiere, the scene in the attic, you remember where the priest climbs up in the attic and she's like moving around like a total demonic, like whatever. And then it's like she's about to kill the priest, and then the mom comes up the ladder and turns the lights on, and as soon as the light comes on, it's just her innocent looking daughter's there. She's like, "Hi, Mom," and the priest is looking like, "What's happening?" Like, I was just getting attacked by a demon, like whatever. And that split second like scary moment to normality, like horror creatures are scary, but scarier than a horror creature is a horror creature that comes in, breaks into your house, attacks you, and when your friend comes out of the next room to try to help you, they're shaking your hand and saying, have a great day. And then you're like, what? Right?
Kind of like a Deadite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I just want to say that the one, because I feel the same way about The Exorcist, because we haven't talked about this before, but like it felt like a Fox series. Does that make sense?
It does.
Where it feels...
It does.
I don't know. It just... I like, the beats, and right after there's going to be like an online college / Pepsi commercial.
That's true.
After it. That was my only gripe. It's like it felt like a Fox show. And I don't know if that's just like in my head. Like,
no, that's totally true.
If you slap AMC on it, well, I feel different. But like it had the beats
of
a Fox show.
It had... Yeah, you're absolutely right. And like... That whole arc of like the Pope is coming to visit that went on for apparently like I feel like it was 20 hours of the Pope is about to visit. Like that felt like a Fox thing. Like they're shortcutting their way to drama. Instead of writing it, they're just like, we'll bring the Pope and it'll raise the stakes automatically. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like what's the biggest religious
thing
aside from bringing back Jesus? Just only the Pope.
Right.
That's my only gripe with The Exorcist, but it had some really good scenes in it.
Yep.
And yeah.
All right, so that's our list. We got a list from people who follow us on Facebook already, but we'd love to know if you haven't left a comment there yet.
And why you guys didn't put Preacher?
What do you think?
in?
Right. What you think?
Now.
Go go on the page and give us a comment. Let us know what you think of the episode or any great horror episodes we missed.
That's right. And if you're feeling like, wow, this episode was really great, I like to hear more of that, go ahead and follow us on, go to the old Patreon page. Go there, check it out. There's a good video that's worth at least a minute and a half of your time. It's,
That's a great video.
Whoever edited that is probably a handsome Dan.
Whoever made that is very talented.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, here's the thing. So since we brought up Patreon, let me just give a real quick explanation of we really want to bring you guys more guests. We love the guests that we've had so far, and we know that they can be very interactive with the fans on our social media, which is exactly what we want. So we want to get more guests to you, but to do that, it requires equipment we don't have, time commitments that are hard to make, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can support us on Patreon for whatever you can spare, it just lets the show get to the quality that we want it to be.
All right, so until next time.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Watch some more.
That's Hollow Weekly.
That's Hollow Weekly. Till next time.
Bye, guys.